All right, it's the end of the session. This is Shenzi, whose name I've had problems remembering. This is Ryder. Now, Ryder, I don't see him as being an aggressive dog. I just see him as being a dog that thinks that his job is to help the pack by being in charge of security. So this is the roadmap to success. We're at the end of the session. I'm going to kind of go over the things that I want the family to work on over the next couple of weeks to help hopefully eliminate these problems for good. Ryder, come here, buddy. We need you on the shot. I'm too ugly to be by myself. All right, so first thing we want to do is start petting the dogs with a purpose. Anytime the dog sticks its nose under your arm and nudges you, instead of petting the dog, we're going to tell the dog to sit. And as soon as the dog sits, we're going to pet and say just the word sit. Not good dog, no, not good sit, just the word sit. We also want to use passive training. Every time the dog comes to us, we're going to pet the dog and say, come. Every time the dog lays down on its own, we're going to pet it and say, down. Every time it sits, we're going to pet it and say, sit. Come. We want to incorporate rules and boundaries. In the house, we have an L-shaped couch, and we have a little area between the ottoman and the couch. The dogs are shoving their way in. We want to make that a no-dog zone unless they get an invitation. We also don't want the dogs to jump up on us. If the dogs jump up on us and we pet them, we're rewarding them for doing that. So if they jump up on you, immediately stand up, and that eliminates it. We want to use the escalating consequences to disagree with unwanted behaviors, and we want to make sure that we do that within 3 seconds. Same thing with rewarding dogs. We want to reward or pet them within 3 seconds so they can connect whatever the reward or the correction is for. We want to use, passive training, like I mentioned earlier, to reward desired actions and behaviors. We want to practice the door answering exercise, as I demonstrated, and everybody in the family should do that. Now, if the dog keeps on going back and forth around the door like Ryder did, we would maybe put some chairs next to the door and create a little bit of a barricade to make the area smaller. Another tip might be to use a tennis racket, not to touch the dogs, but just to extend the reach of your arm, and a lot of times that'll make the dog move away. For Shenzi, we're going to do some remedial potty training. So we're going to come up with a new command word. We're going to follow her outside. As soon as she starts to go potty, we're going to say business or whatever the new command word is. As soon as and just say it once and don't say it too excited. As soon as she gets done going potty, then we're going to crouch down like a softball catcher into a squat and then have a treat. And for the first week, we're going to give her 5 treats in a row and just go business, business, business. We want her going like, what did I just do? So I just pee outside. They just fawn all over me, give them the best treats I've ever had. After the first week, then we're just going to just do 1 treat. When we say the word business, anytime we give a treat, the second the treat goes in the dog's mouth, they should hear the command word. After we can get to the point where we can say to her business and she bounces around to indicate, yes, I have to go potty, then we can incorporate a bell. To use a bell, make sure we don't hang it from the doorknob. We hang it next to the doorknob, and we have a second bell that we go outside with the dog with. Every time the dog potties, as soon as it starts, we ring it. Now, don't go ding, 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 ding. Go jing, jing. Have a little bit of a pause in between each jing, because that's the sound that it's going to make when she nudges it with her nose. And we do that as soon as she starts pottying and throughout her potty. And then we stop as soon as she gets done. We crouch down in that softball player's catcher's position. And we give her the treat and jing at the same second the treat touches her lips. And as long as she's chewing it, we keep on doing the same thing. After we've done that for about a week or so, if she's not already been doing it, we might do the exercise we did in the office where we teach her to touch an object with her nose. We use the clicker training like I demonstrated. But eventually we want her to go over and nudge it with her nose. Now, for some dogs, I'll just simply take a toothpick and take a little dab of peanut butter and put a tiny dab of peanut butter on that. Don't do it when Ryder's around, because Ryder's going to probably take it. And don't put too much peanut butter, because they just lick at it forever, and they don't want to go outside. They want to stay there licking the deal. Let me see. We want to claim a 1-foot bubble of personal space. There's nothing wrong with the dog being on your lap if you invite the dog on your lap. Right now, the dogs are making that decision for us. We want to practice having the dog sit before we let them, I make them sit before I let them in or out of a door, and try to avoid letting the dog run up and down stairs or through hallways ahead of you. If necessary, put the dog in a stay at the bottom of the stairs, walk up the stairs backwards, and when you get up the top of the stairs, hold up your hand with a treat and give the dog the command word. Whenever it's difficult with 2 dogs together, separate the dogs, practice with 1 dog by itself, and then come back and practice with the other dog after that dog's establishing behavior. Now, when your dog has a problem and it's complicated, like answering the door, we want to recreate the situation, or if really it's anything. So if anything that your dog fails at, instead of getting upset, recreate the situation, but remove a couple of the elements so the dog can focus on one thing at a time. When we answered the door, we just went to we practiced walking to the door first before we even opened it. Anytime the dog did the wrong thing, we corrected the dog. When we got to the door, we jiggled the deadbolt first. Then we did the handle. Then we opened a crack. So by breaking it down in individual steps, we're teaching the dog what it is that we want them to do, as opposed to expecting them to do the whole thing all at once, because this is how we get taught. Your math teacher doesn't tell a student, okay, just do all these things. You teach, first addition, and then subtraction, and then multiplication, then division. Then we can start getting at calculus and more complicated theorems. Let me see. Whenever we're correcting the dog, we always want to try to end it with a positive reinforcement. So if you correct the dog, if it's invading your personal space, we hiss or make whatever the escalating consequence is. As soon as the dog does something we want, then we ask it to sit or lie down, if appropriate, and then ask it to, and then reward it for doing so. Now the dog's challenging over and over, we might skip that step. When humans are eating, the dog should not be within 10 feet of any human who is eating. Because we have a clear line between the kitchen and the family room, I would say the dogs are not allowed to be on the hardwood floor, not allowed on the hardwood floor, when people are eating food in the kitchen. The rest of the time they can go in there and eat, walking around as much as they want. When we're feeding the dogs, we're going to feed the dogs in structured order. We're going to rotate. All the people in the family are going to take turns feeding the dogs. And the human who's feeding the dog is going to put the dog's food in their bowls first. Then the human is going to take 5 or more bites of something as a snack. Then we're going to invite the dogs in one at a time. Now, I would invite whoever's calmest first. When that dog goes over to the bowl and they take their first bite, I would say feast, or whatever the command word is for that particular dog. When that dog gets done eating, or walks away from the bowl, if it walks away from the bowl and there's food in the bowl, I pick up the bowl, I dump it, put the empty bowl back down. It's important to put the empty bowl back down. Then the dog leaves the area, then we call the second dog to come in. So dogs don't have to compete with each other or watch out of each other to make sure they're not trying to take each other's stuff. I would look into getting a better quality food, one that's wheat and corn free. What I like to do is get a brand, and then I rotate. Each bag, I get a different flavor, so it keeps it a little bit more interesting for the dogs. Let me see. Help each other out. So we're going to come up with watchwords for repeat. Means you're repeating the command word over and over. The more you say a command, the less your dog means it, or less it means it to your dog. We're also going to avoid things like, we want to go for a walk? When we're taking the dogs for a walk, because that comes a trigger and it creates an excitement. So instead, we're just going to practice putting the dog on a leash without saying these things. We're going to do it multiple times without taking them for a walk, so we don't get this response. Thank you, we're going to go for a walk. So, and more than anything else, here. More than anything else, we want to provide them with leadership and structure, especially in Ryder's case. So Ryder doesn't feel that it's his job to be in charge of security for the pack. The more that we assume the leadership position through our actions, the less the dog is going to feel the need to do that. Don't let Ryder shove his way through like we're just doing right now. Dad is correcting. He's doing a great job. Make sure when you're moving in your movements, it's very sudden, deliberate movement. And we're going to be a little bit softer with her because she's more of a sensitive dog. And then the last thing I'd like to see all the kids, really everybody in the family would be ideal, is if everyone picks a new trick or command, and each week one person teaches the dog that command for both dogs separately, and then teaches everybody in the family how to do it, and then we're going to practice that one command all week long. And then the next week another person is going to teach a trick or command, and at the end of that we should have a good anywhere from 8 to or more. And you might find that you really enjoy doing it. You should notice an increase in her confidence level. And last thing, make sure you avoid petting her on top of the head. A proud dog has its nose in the air. I prefer to pet a dog under its chin. You can pet her anywhere you want. Just want to avoid petting her on top of her head. And then one last thing is we can put the dog in a position to succeed. If we're going to have a lot of people on the block or a lot of people in the house, taking the dogs for a lot of exercise ahead of time, or to doggy daycare during the day before we have a party at night, is going to drain all their excess energy, make them much easier to deal with. So this is just a list of some of the things that we want to work on to help these dogs behave a little bit better, and especially to eliminate Ryder's desire or thought that he needs to protect the house. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.